So I was on a group of people that were interviewing groups that were selected by Ms. Glasheen. We interviewed 4 separate groups of people to investigate Ms. Glasheen, and the groups included students, the leadership at Peck Middle School, her direct reports, and teachers and administration at Dean Technical School. The reason for the groups that were selected were evident in the discussions that we had. The students all spoke praises for Mrs. Glasheen. Some of the students at Holyoke High had her as a principal in their earlier years. They spoke about her ability to see them as people, with many of the students saying that she had helped them get to and from school. One of the other things that came up often was the recognition that students have unique needs, and there was much focus on the whole child, which is a part of the strategic plan. They often spoke of their excitement to share events in their personal and academic lives with Mrs. Glasheen. Peck Middle School administration was chosen due to Mrs. Glasheen's involvement with the entirety of the project, from construction to staffing to budgetary constraints. The feedback from administration suggests that she was a great thought partner in all aspects of making the decisions. Her direct reports spoke a lot of Mrs. Glasheen's approach to solving problems. They described the most important aspect to her in solving problems as students first. It was mentioned that she uses this as her North Star and asset for all major issues. Another notable thing that she was described was her leadership style enabled her to take large goals and put them into small chunks and leverage the use of data to arrive at targets in support of those goals. She's very organized and explicit with actions that need to be taken and open to providing support when asked. Finally, the Dean Technical team was very illustrative as well. Mrs. Glasheen was noted as an instrumental part of making vocational education viable from a budgetary standpoint, and was also offered a success path for all of our students. She was described as a coach for the teachers who were from a technical background and developing them into teachers. There are certain themes that appeared many times throughout the interviews that are crucial for mentioning. The most salient point among them are the description of her as, quote, Mrs. Holyoke, and the fact that she was very experienced in navigating relationships that she has developed over the course of her career in Holyoke. She's described as not only making those relationships, but also maintaining them. Finally, multiple people reported that she was sought out by families to attend IEP meetings that she would have otherwise not been invited to, which highlights her value not only as an advocate for students and parents, but also as a person who seeks to remedy situations involving the whole child.
Thank you, Mr. Michelson. Ms. Louvold.
Thank you. So we had the pleasure to meet with candidates that Ms. Annie Arzaloza had arranged for us to meet. We interviewed about 13 folks last Friday, and they ranged, Mr. Michelson and Mr. Isasa were also on the call. And we interviewed individuals from New Hampshire and Worcester districts where Ms. Arzaloza worked, such as principals and also an executive coach, a former superintendent, school board members, business managers, and a community member in Rochester. The 3 principals from the current district, this is a school district, and Ms. Arzaloza mentioned about 500 people strong in the district. Ms. Arzaloza has been there for 6 months, and she made an immediate impact in this small rural district near the Canadian border. They said that Annie quickly stabilized the business office within 6 months, drawing on her experience from larger districts, which had an immediate impact there. The elementary principal described her help in de-escalating a combative parent situation that made him feel calm versus feeling like he was putting his school on defense. And he also described the first meeting of the leader cabinet where Annie proactively brought up the elephant in the room, which was a reference to ongoing legal matters that she was facing in her district of Rochester, New Hampshire. And he felt the proactive gesture was valuable to him, that she did not try to hide the issue, and that created trust for him. She said the other principals had said that Annie had laid out a case for how she would champion things and how she could not control outcomes, and she appreciated Annie's willingness to explain things and be very visible and transparent in all of her steps. The community member in Rochester Annie said that Annie brought positive changes to the district in the 6 months that she was the active superintendent before her leave. So the resident said before Annie's arrival there was a toxic work environment where teachers lacked growth, opportunities, and community involvement was lacking. And she felt that Annie brought in hope and engagement. The resident said that in her observation as a community member, Annie was challenging the culture and desire to change. And she said that Annie's efforts to implement necessary changes were thwarted due to resistance from a school board and some community members who protected the status quo. The residents also said that Annie's resignation from Rochester was a real setback to the community, and the community is still reeling from it. Asked with hindsight if there was anything that could have happened to change the situation where Annie could have stayed instead of leaving, the resident said no, and she added there was no reciprocal partnership with the school board, and the school board had an unwillingness to admit past mistakes. And when asked what Annie's community detractors would say about her role, she said they would just say lies. So the resident described the situation between the board and Annie as one where the board did not know their place. She said that the role confusion characterized as knowing your lane issues between the school board and the office of the superintendent. We also had the opportunity to speak with the former Worcester superintendent who hired Annie, and a manager who was also her current executive leadership coach. The former Worcester superintendent and Annie's executive coach spoke openly about Annie's strong community engagement skills and how she quickly built relationships with community members, municipal leaders, and other stakeholders. They underscored that she is comfortable connecting across languages because she is fluent in Spanish, and they believe she has a deep passion and commitment to students, and she's especially passionate about helping those from lower socioeconomic backgrounds. Her coach shared that she is drawn to the underdog. The former Worcester superintendent noted that when she hired Annie at Worcester Public Schools, Annie had instant likability and a collaborative leadership style that reached into the community, including with municipal leaders, and she was also coachable and open to feedback. The former superintendent said Annie routinely made efforts to work with stakeholders and community members. Her coach added that Annie has no fear of working with anyone. When asked about budgeting experience, the superintendent mentioned that Annie, who was leading academic support at the time, was an instrumental partner in helping her cut $20 million from the budget. Annie's former boss and current executive mentor cited areas of leadership growth opportunities for her. They named a tendency for her to move too fast to push change efforts more quickly than stakeholders might be able to absorb. And so their guidance to us would have been to go slower or to manage change more deliberately. They also shared that Annie is not a financial technical leader, and while she has experience in budget decision-making, she will, as many superintendents do, rely on a strong CBO or fiscal team to oversee, support, and technical budgeting work. Lastly, we spoke with some central office staff and current school board members in the rural district at the Canadian border. Board members there say that Annie improved budget management, communication, and community collaboration in the short 6 months that she has been there. And her proactive efforts, like listening tours and student advisory councils, enhance transparency and professionalism. Though she hasn't faced a large town meeting yet where there would be hundreds of people there, the board appreciates her forward-thinking leadership and the confidence she instilled, including a clear exit plan. Should she leave, the chair noted Annie was candid about challenges in Rochester, which built trust, and board members also valued her communication, responsiveness, and said she took feedback well. The central office staff praised Annie's professionalism and work ethic, and they said that they would like to work for her again at some point if they ever had the opportunity. They thought that her bilingual skills were quite impressive, and her outside perspective has been seen as a positive after years of turnover. And while her departure would be a loss and they would have a bittersweet feeling, always knew that she intended to go to Massachusetts.
I had the opportunity with Mr. Isaza and Ms. Lubold and a couple various people throughout the course of a day to interview people for Carmen Melendez-Quintero. The first group of people we interviewed were direct reports from the Boston Public Schools. So one of them referred to Ms. Quintero as the queen of MTSS, and she believed a lot. She comes from she's coaching right now, literacy in Boston. So she was very much involved in developing the coaches that would then deploy curriculum to the schools. One other note was that she was very thoughtful in probing for a root cause analysis before applying a solution and making sure that there were structural and sound solutions to those problems. She also was identified as being very good at making pivot points to know how to swing and how to change action if required. As far as stakeholder engagement, with her current role, she's not directly in charge of family input. She's in charge of inserting structural breaks for family engagement and prescribing them. That's what I got from the interview. It looks like she did look for opportunities she asked the question often who was not included in particular groups of people, and made an effort to break down barriers to make sure that they were involved in decision making. In another subset of interviews, we interviewed two people from the Worcester School District that she was working with. They mentioned her strong counseling background and that she was an outside-the-box thinker, and she brought dual language in a different capacity to Worcester and brought a conference to Worcester that really put Worcester on the map as a model for dual language programs. She's a very strategic thinker, and she, in Boston right now, has worked on merging two schools and has looked to relay the needs to the district from the families in that situation. And she spent a lot of time understanding community. That when asked what she would do to build community, she said the direct response was that the first thing she would do is learn everything about the community and the sub-communities within it. She's got big ideas and great preparation and is very good at implementation.
What an incredible job, the candidates that were brought forward in this whole process. I've had the honor of meeting with all three candidates for a whole 30 minutes. It's the fastest 30 minutes that I've ever experienced ever. And even within those 30 minutes, the unique perspective each one had offered and the energy that they brought was just very impressive and made me feel very hopeful after the night. I could tell you the first candidate that we interviewed, Melendez, right? Carmen, Mrs. Melendez. The fact that her experience in Worcester, I remember when we were doing this and we went out to Worcester and we interviewed Dr. Paez and we learned about the dual language program, and was really one of the many reasons why. And here we are now today, fast forward, with a very robust dual language program, and she, in fact, helped expand it over there in Worcester and continue to do work. So it's just kind of great to know that, it was just kind of great to see that turn around and know that if this is a potential win here, that we'll continue this important program that's loved by a lot of people in our community. And also she asked about, it's just, hey, what does the relationship look between the municipality and the school district, which I thought was a great question when we met, beyond just what happens, right, as a manager inside the district, working with the teachers and trying to achieve student outcomes and meeting community needs. It was, how does that relationship look like, and how do we work together to help continue to support the district, just on the municipal lens, which I thought was really neat, and we had a pretty neat conversation around that. Mrs. Glasheen, 30 minutes. I've known Mrs. Glasheen for a very long time, so it was, you know, I don't want to say difficult, but like when you kind of already know so much. However, I will say that with Mrs. Glasheen, you know, the question I asked her was, you know, you've been in the district for for a while, and keeping your finger on the pulse, we know how certain groups in our district feel about the current administration coming out of receivership in this transition, of whether or not there was collaboration and unity between our stakeholders. And Mrs. Glasheen just had a great answer. You know, she gave a lot of credit to the administration, strongly believes the direction we're going is a good one, and she contributed to that team. Certainly, as leader, trying to build upon that foundation that we've already established, transitioning out of receivership into local control, and now under new leadership, kind of just building on that momentum and doing what we can through the lens of what she knows already have been working in the district, growing up through the ranks, from her earlier time starting in the district to now, you know, in her current role, and then even serving as principal, everything in between. You know, she certainly knows, has a very strong perspective of what's going on. And as the final candidate, Alzaloza, how do you pronounce it?
Azarlosa.
Another excellent conversation. You know, and mind you, with all three candidates, I could tell you consistently across the board, each one has brought up and based on their own collective knowledge and research and what they know, has identified a potential weakness in our district is trying to figure out how to be better in how we're providing services to our children with special needs, the special education. And I think we've kind of already had some sense of that from previous conversations, but it was good to see that the research was being done and that there was a priority set by the potential next leader to put that in the forefront and finally get moving the needle a little bit and do better on that. You know, there was some concern that I think you've probably touched a little bit on. It sounds like you might have even talked about it in the interview, that had brought up prior to the interview about some issue that came up, which we talked about at length. And it turns out, you know, this candidate's a fixer. She likes to go in and solve problems. And just from my own personal experience, when you go from, you know, when I was in Blandford to just kind of even today is here, when I was at PVPC, and you're trying to work with local governments, understand best practices and how you improve the systems. You know, when things are in disarray and you're brought into there's resistance in that process, and you know, it's part of the stages of a community trying to overcome and understand and acknowledge and get to a point where there's alignment and achieving shared progress. And so it was great, just being able to talk at length about like the experience in New Hampshire, going into a challenging district that has been used to a certain way, and being able to just kind of dive into that and do what they can in their capacity, not from there, doesn't know anybody, not politically connected, and trying to be a change agent. That can be a very difficult environment to navigate, for sure. But I got to say, I know it was a quick 30 minutes, but very impressed with all three. And that's my report in the interviews.
Thank you. Ms. Densley Williams.
This is a very tough decision. I've never had to make a decision like this a lot of times in my life. They were all excellent. It's tough. It's almost like a stalemate. But I know we do have to make a decision tonight. So I guess I don't know if I should say it now or. Okay, we're going to be voting, I'll just leave that alone. But I thank you all for coming, and I had a great time. Thank you so much, and may the best one win. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Wilson.
So first, I want to thank all the candidates who expressed interest in our position as a superintendent in Holyoke. I think it takes courage to put yourself out there in this type of public forum. It takes courage to apply for a position in a district like ours coming out of receivership. So again, I applaud all the candidates, and for those who made it to the final interview, it was an engaging couple of evenings listening to your perspectives. I find that each candidate had their, some particular strengths to draw on, that each candidate could make an impact on our district. So there, in my mind, there is no bad choice, but there is also a choice in my mind that is clear for who is the right person for the city of Holyoke as the next candidate. And this is based upon the questions that were posed to each candidate. As I was saying, I think based upon the notes I took, the process that was put in front of us, like I said, there is one candidate who stands out in my mind based upon her background. And so, but once again, thank you to all the candidates. As I said, this is a very challenging process, and we appreciate all of your interest and your time with our community. Thank you.
Ms. Lubo.
Thank you. I would echo what was said before about the strong candidates, and I especially want to just spend a few minutes just sharing how valuable I found it to listen to the interviews and the site visits and other people's perspectives that were living with the candidates in their own element, and could talk about them as leaders, as people who knew them and worked alongside of them. And I found that was a really extremely valuable part of the process. For me, as I sit here, I do feel that although we have 3 strong candidates, there is one candidate and only one candidate that has accurately portrayed the situation before our district. The simple fact of the matter is that we are not out of receivership. We have exit assurances that are on us for the next 18 months. And anybody that assumes a leadership role in this community as a superintendent is going to have to deal with current practices, programming that they may not like, but they will have to continue because that is the way forward. The objective before us, and to pick a leader at this moment, is to pick a leader who is going to get us out of receivership and really embrace local control so that we as Hoyokers can lift our community up together. There was only one candidate who mentioned continuity, who mentioned the understanding before our community, because that candidate is living it and has been living it. So when I think about what Holyoke needs next and what we need to do as a board, we need to understand the mission before us. Lastly, what I'll say, and this is very important to us as a governance board, and this is not something that I take lightly in saying, but we have a fiduciary obligation of care to our community. And when we are inviting reputational risk, when one candidate is embroiled in a recent lawsuit, as recent as was filed as last week by a former municipality that she worked for, that is a troubling circumstance. We are a community that is besieged, oftentimes by negative news, embroiled in controversy. And so I ask us to think about, or have we thought about, what does that mean in continuing someone else's legacy that may be fixed, and be fine. But is this what we need at this moment to lead our city forward? And I just ask us, have we thought about that as a new board? Again, trying to come out of receivership and make solid decisions about who will lead us forward, and to keep our responsibility on student outcomes and to our community. Thank you.
Mr. Michelson?
I'd like to take a second thank you to all the candidates, and a big thank you to the screening committee who gave us the 3 best candidates we could have possibly asked for. You guys did an awesome job, and it was very apparent, right? The 3 candidates who sat here, right? One was an expert in social work, right? Nailed it. Community needs somebody who's socially sensitive, right? Somebody who understands inequity, somebody who's willing to put their foot down and make things better for all students. I saw that in Carmen Melendez-Cotero. And that was a lot of what I saw with her, right? I don't know, actually I'll move on to Ms. Glasheen, right? The quote of Mrs. Holyoke, right? I thought a lot about what does their district need right now. We have people who are familiar with our district, right? Who are familiar with the challenges of being in Holyoke. We have a Mrs. Holyoke. That's worth a lot in this situation when you're talking about exiting from state control, when you're talking about what the next steps are for the district, what kind of vision you have, and communicating that, and have been communicating it to everybody all the way up. That's not lost on me. And as a result, I'm sorry, somebody say that. Well, the candidate tonight, she was excellent. She was very flashy. She was very good with systems work. I was very impressed with her in a lot of different ways. But I'm not sure that, as Ms. Lewell mentioned, I'm not sure that I can get around to the idea of having a liability to our students or to our community. We need somebody strong who understands what's going on right now in every classroom. Somebody who will hug our kids, somebody who will see them for who they are, and who has seen them for who they are, and has lived through tragedies and all the other things that have happened in this community for years. So thanks a lot to all the candidates. Thank you all for being here tonight.
Mr. Isasa?
We have, I think, 3 excellent candidates. They're all very knowledgeable, highly experienced, with a deep commitment to the students and teachers. All of them demonstrated some clarity about the importance of evidence-based research behind everything that is done. Clearly committed to community engagement and family involvement. So, frankly, other than the comments previously made, I think we are gifted with 3 excellent candidates, and I think whomever is actually chosen would be good for Holyoke.
Ms. Lebron Martinez?
Good evening, everyone. I want to thank the audience and those who are watching at home. I listened very carefully to these 3 candidates, tremendous, amazing feedback to our questions. But as I recollect being here, having 4 children who graduated from our Holyoke public system, my oldest is 48 years old. Many of the issues that are being addressed over and over in this community have been here for years, where if we still in the challenges of our children's not graduating, accessing opportunities to colleges, and the other isms that exist in our system, doesn't matter who comes on board, and doesn't take the torch the way that we need to, we're going to be in the same. I die and my grandchildren will see it. Not only do I have 4 children who graduated from here, 9 grandkids involved, and 2 who may possibly one day be in the system. And for me, everything, in paper looks good. And of course, we did the process of the interviews. But at the same time, I am going to look for what is in the best interest of our children and our families, so that we can see at least one day before I pass the changes that these children deserve in these families and the community. So thank you all.
Thank you. Ms. Lefebvre.
Just checking to see if you really want to hear what I have to say. I'm trying to think how to say it in the most polite and political way. I am grateful for the 3 candidates that did come forward, or that was presented by the committee, the search committee. But I'm going to reflect back on the community advisory team that was developed when we were looking at getting out of receivership. And the many people that were involved and attended the sessions and gave their feedback on what they were looking for a leader. I still recall the day when we were hearing that we were going to get out of receivership. What was the first thing out of everybody's mouth? We got to hurry up and hire a new superintendent for July 1st. Just like our students that struggle with mental health, our students that struggle with disabilities, transitioning constantly is an impact, can make a negative impact on them. The same thing happens now during our transition, which we're not fully out of receivership, in my opinion, transitioning so much. And sometimes I feel that this process was kind of rushed. For what purpose? What purpose are we here for? I'm still trying to figure that one out. And I have so much that I could say, but I'm just not going to say it. But I am grateful for the candidate that was just here. Because you know what? A lot of us have skeletons in our closet, right? At least she's forthcoming to it, and she'll call it out. We shouldn't already judge without knowing. Plus, you can't convict without having the evidence. That's my personal opinion. But going back to leadership and who we need right now, going back to the community advisory team's report, they wanted somebody who understood Holyoke, someone who lives in Holyoke, someone who speaks Spanish. They wanted someone that was really willing to take risks. There was so much to it, but the key component of it was who knows Holyoke. We always say we don't need somebody to come and save us. We need somebody to come and work with us. We don't need saving. Our kids don't need saving. They want somebody who cares, somebody who's empathetic, and somebody who really looks at them like they can succeed. That's what they want. So good luck to the 3 candidates, and all the best for our city. You have your own microphone.
Someone's fired up at 8:30. Yeah. So I do appreciate what all my fellow members said and all their comments, and how much I appreciate the people who we got to interview these past 3 nights. Let's also, though it won't be a first for Holyoke, but we will be choosing another permanent female superintendent, which I think is pretty huge that we've had 3 female finalists out of this pool. So I am going to talk a little bit about some of the qualities of each of the candidates, because I think that they put themselves on display for us for 2-3 weeks and went through this whole process, and just want to talk about some of the things that I saw out of them. I'll just go in order of the night that they interviewed. We met with Ms. Melendez Quintero, and what I saw in her were true qualities of supporting MLL students and ensuring that all students are ready and prepared to lead. She brought a huge commitment to SEL and often talked about MTSS in her interview. I do feel as though that some of her weaknesses in here was not a direct leadership role in school management. She lacked some readiness to be in Holyoke, and let's just own it. Holyoke is a difficult place to lead in and a difficult place to teach in. No matter what position you're in, there are challenges here, and there are not just one crisis going on once a week. There's 7 fires going every hour. And I think that she is a high-quality leader. I'm just not sure that Holyoke is a right fit. There's somewhere that's a right fit for her because she definitely has the passion to be a leader and to support public school students and ensure that students have opportunities. We had the opportunity to meet with Mrs. Glasheen on Wednesday, and once again, it was a very strong interview, and it was obviously knows the Holyoke system, has been here for many years, and I think that is a great testament to what, as my colleague said, the Community Advisory Committee was looking for. I think that there are some challenges. Her greatest strengths, I think, sometimes can also be some great weaknesses. I think that knowing that having a familiarity with the district sometimes makes it more difficult to lead change. And if selected, I think that she will rise to that occasion to ensure that she is leading with courage and conviction and doing the things that Holyoke needs to move forward and to move forward over the next 18 months to not have renewed exit assurances. And there was a true commitment that every day of her work is to make not just the Holyoke Public Schools but the city a better place, and that was shown on Wednesday with that. And also was the only candidate that spoke directly towards the entry plan and provided that to the committee to get started at the start of the term. Our last candidate tonight, Ms. Arza Loza, was also another strong candidate. I think that she brought, she led in some very unique areas, from a charter school to a very rural school district where she is now, to a little bit more urban district. And she definitely brought some experience that I was looking for, similar to last night's candidate, with school building leadership, being able to, having the history of being a principal, assistant superintendent, so on, and those areas. I am slightly concerned with some of the things in the past, but I also know that the minute someone gets the title superintendent, that everything is on their shoulders, and that sometimes there's bad press, sometimes things don't go your way. Like, there's lots of issues when you become a superintendent, and I recognize that every superintendent and anyone sitting at this table could all have things put in them in the paper, and we have to sift through the right and the wrong with that. And I think that she, once again, could be a very strong leader somewhere with that, and definitely has a passion, once again, for ensuring that every student is able to learn and have what they need around them. And I think that we'll be in good hands tonight with the decision that the school committee makes. I also recognize that there's only, I think, 2 of us at this table that were here 12 years ago making this decision, and it was the last time we went through a search, and this is such a huge, huge opportunity for our city. And just like many, many years ago when we had to make a pivotal decision for the future of Holyoke, I stand by the decision and the vote that I took then for change in Holyoke, and I will stand by the decision that I take tonight with the person that I think will be the best leader for the district.
Thank you. When the community advisory team came on board and they put together what the profile of the next superintendent would be, and very much how Ms. LaFay was talking about those qualities that the next superintendent that we were looking as a community for the next superintendent, I'm going to say that I think we have a great slew of candidates. They're strong. We're not going to be able to fulfill all of the things that the community advisory team put forward. And I say that because there would be very few people in the world probably who could really fit every box from that community advisory team. But I will say that the screening committee, thank you, all of you, because you really did a hard job and made our job harder in a good way, because we have 3 candidates that had leadership skills, and even though not all of them can tick all the boxes, they tick enough boxes to be here tonight for our consideration. We have, if we could have a merger between the awesome community engagement from Annie Azarosa and the counseling background from Carmen Julissa Melendez Quintero and the institutional and community knowledge from Ms. Glasheen, we could have the most perfect superintendent that there could be. But that's not what we have. We have 3 candidates who each bring their own strengths and things that they will be able to bring to Holyoke, and we will have to make a decision. And this is, and I don't say this lightly, this is gonna be a really hard decision, but we're all, and I speak, I think, for everybody in this board, that we do it because whatever decision we make tonight is gonna be what we think is in the best interest of the children of Holyoke. I also want to say thank you to every member of our school committee, as well as the finalists and the screening committee and the community advisory team, but especially to the members on this stage, because I know that you had lots of competing priorities, you had lots of things that you had to do, and you made time for site visits. Mr. Michelson was one who was in every site visit. And I know that he had a lot of competing priorities and things that he needed to do. The same with Ms. Lubo, the same with Mr. Isasa, Ms. Tensley Williams. They were able to be there representing us because not everybody could go to everything. But we're a great team, and I commend all of you for, again, being here tonight, taking this seriously and doing the best that you can, which is all that we can ask for. So thank you so much.
I'd like to make a motion to go to the first round of voting.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. So I'm going to explain what the ballot looks like. So for each of the committee members, you will have a space to write your name, and then all you have to do is circle the candidate that you're voting for. So I'm going to get my steps in, and I'm going to give you your ballots. Once you're done, fold your paper so that I can know that you're done. And then I'll pick up and read them out loud. I need to be able to vote too. Hold on. Right. Garcia, Jackie Glasheen, Ms. Lubold, Jackie Glasheen, Ms. Wilson, Jackie Glasheen, Ms. Stanley Williams, Jackie Glasheen, Mr. Michelson, Jackie Glasheen, Mr. Isasa, Carmen Melendez Quintero, Ms. Lebron Martinez, Annie Asa Rosa, Ms. Lefebvre, Jackie Glasheen, Mr. Sheehan, Jackie Glasheen, yours truly, Jackie Glasheen. Mr. Sheehan.
I'd like to make a motion that the school committee take a brief recess so the chair can contact the candidate